and you can see that salad has now come first. The same as if we were to say ascending, but obviously you can see that this is automatically ascending by default. So now what happens if we want to select only a certain food type? So let's say we are producing a list of healthy food. Let's just go in and add some more records so we can get a better idea of what's happening. So healthy food might be pasta, for example. So we could say pasta. Calories might say 600. We might say this is healthy, so we'll give this a value of H. And down here we can say another unhealthy food. We'll say ice cream. Calories, let's just give it, say 700, and we'll say this is unhealthy. We'll denote that with a U. So let's click go, and we'll just double check that everything is there. Now we've automatically put these values in, so when we come back to our PHP page, this will automatically update. So I've refreshed, and that's been updated, and you can see that it's still in descending order. We've got ice cream, pasta, salad, and pizza. So now what I want to do is I want to modify my query to work with only healthy food. So I'm going to say select food calories from food where, so before this order ID, where healthy underscore unhealthy, which is our column name, remember, let's just go back and have a look at that, where healthy unhealthy, and we need to say is equal to H. So equals H. Remember, this time using single quotation marks rather than apostrophes. So now let's refresh our page, and you can see that that's been updated with just the healthy food. And then the same again with unhealthy. We could choose U, and then we could list just the unhealthy food. So you can see that just by selecting data from our database, we're choosing exactly the data we want to select. Remember, you can also use things like the AND keyword as well. And you can pretty much change this query to however you need to select your data and how you need to apply conditions to it. Now, there's also a function in PHP that allows you to return an integer with the amount of rows that have been returned. So for example, if we return no values, so we've got healthy unhealthy equals U, I could say, and let's just pick something out, healthy unhealthy equals U, and calories equal 100. So what we're doing now in our query is we're selecting where the food is unhealthy and the calories are equal to 100. Now if you look in our table, let's look at the unhealthy. So we've got unhealthy pizza, which is 1000. We've got unhealthy ice cream, which is 700. No record exists where the value is U for unhealthy and the calories match 100. So what's going to happen is when we refresh our page, we've returned nothing. So what happens if we want to display a message to the user saying nothing's been found, so no results have been returned from this query that's been run here? So what we do is we use the MySQL num rows function. So if query run equals MySQL query, now inside what we can do is say, just above the while loop, and then we'll close that just before that, we can say if MySQL underscore num underscore rows, we need to reference the query run, so the query that has actually been run, equals 0 or null, then say something, otherwise we can loop through the data. There's no point, I'm just going to increment that or indent that, sorry. There's no actual point in running this while loop here if the data returned here is equal to 0. So we can put an error message in here saying no results found. Okay, and let's I'll make this a little larger so we can understand what's going on. So we've run the query. Now we're running an if statement, and we're saying if the number of rows returned from this query are equal to 0, say no results found. Otherwise, we're looping through the data that has been found, because if it doesn't equal 0, we must have at least one row. Then we loop through and grab the data. So let's just refresh our page and see what happens. So you can see no results found. Now what happens if we change our query around? Let's just go up to our query, and I say and calories equals 700. Now let's go back to our database. We can see that an unhealthy food with a calorie amount of 700 is ice cream. So therefore this query will have returned one row. Therefore this if statement will evaluate to false and will run this block here. So let's just test that. We should just get ice cream displayed on our page. And we have, so ice cream has 700 calories. So using these few simple functions and using a while loop, you can see that we can select all rows in our database that have been returned with a specific query. Now we don't always need to use this while loop to return specific information. For example, if we know that we're only going to return one row, for example the example I've already used with the username and password, if we say return one row and we know we're only ever going to return one row, we can do this slightly differently. And that will be demonstrated in the next video in this series. So for now, that was selecting data from our database using a loop and these small but very useful functions.